I'm Caleb Schilke. I'm the founder of Altura, and I'm going to be personally hosting the first of many to come lessons. App Store submissions are up 84%. I've dealt with it. We've all dealt with it if we're publishing something right now. Review times for people building with AI, pushing these apps out, went from about 2 days to over a month. And Apple has started to actually reject, for the first time, apps that are built with AI. I shipped one anyway, and here's exactly what I did different. In 2025, Apple got 557,000 app submissions. That's the most they've had since 2016. And in the last quarter alone, submissions jumped 84%. That's not random, guys. That's Lovable, that's Cursor, that's Claude Code. Building an app went from some 6-month project with an insanely developed team with experience to a project in a weekend sitting in Apple's queue. And Apple's review team did not get 84% bigger. I can guarantee you that. They've actually used more AI from what we've seen. So what used to take 24 to 48 hours now takes 7 to 30 days even, as some Reddit users are complaining to us, as well as in our community. Some people are waiting longer than that. And the time your app just kind of sits there saying, waiting for review, right? With that yellow mark on it. There's really nothing you can do about it. But of course, slow isn't the problem. Slow is kind of just annoying, right? The problem is that Apple actually started rejecting a specific kind of app. If you guys have built yours with AI, there's a decent chance that you're going to run into it. The rule is called guideline 2-5-2. It's been in the App Store guidelines for years, and almost nobody used to hit this. So what does 2.5.2 actually say? Your app cannot download and run new code after Apple has reviewed it. And when you think about that for 2 seconds, the reason that the rule exists is kind of obvious, right? Apple reviews your app one time. If your app can pull down new code afterwards, then what Apple approved isn't really the app that its users are running. You could ship them essentially anything, and then the review is pointless. So Apple's position around this is simple. Whatever your app does, it has to be in the binary that they looked at. And here's why that suddenly matters. A lot of people that are AI app builders work by generating and running code at runtime. For some of them, really, that's the entire product, which is basically a shell going through their approval system, and the real behavior is showing up afterwards. This is the exact thing that the 2.5.2 guideline, as you can see down here, was meant to stop. It was written that way. And it just never mattered before, because before AI, nobody was shipping an app that wrote itself. In March, Replit and Vibecode both had their updates blocked, and an app called Anything got pulled from the store completely on March 30th. These are not small operations. These are funded companies with legal teams and people whose job is App Store compliant. So if it can happen to them, it can happen to really anybody, whether you're building something today or this weekend. Now, again, this slide's going to talk about it. This is probably where your app or whatever you're building through code, or regardless, if you're part of the Altura society, you're most likely exploring in this stuff. And I don't want you guys to get caught. So first, if your app pulls a prompt or a config file from your server, that changes how the app behaves. Not what it says, right? How it behaves. And that's a gray area, and reviewers are starting to look at it now. Second, as you can see, if you're using a web view or a JavaScript bridge that loads remote scripts, that's a straight problem. Third, if you shipped with placeholders that get filled in later from your backend, that's also a problem. And 4, this one's different, but it catches more AI-built apps than really any of the above. If your app is basically a wrapper around a website, that's guideline 4.2, minimum functionality. Apple wants to know why this is an app instead of just a bookmark. And right, this happens a lot with projects like Lovable's building, because it makes a website instantly, and it looks good enough to be an app, but it doesn't have the true mechanisms that would make it that. So now, I want to take this. I didn't fill in the template, but I want to show you guys what we have actually shipped, right? I'm going to go out of here. We're going to go into App Store Connect and log in, right? So this is the App Store Connect screen. As you guys know, Altura Society is our primary platform. Is what you can join in the description. Nova is our planner app. I'll show you the website real quick. But Nova is essentially the motion calendar, if you guys are familiar with motion, but way, way, way cheaper. And it connects directly to your AI project. through an MCP server. So Claude or ChatGPT can actually run your calendar. And this has an auto scheduling feature that runs your whole life for you, just as complex, but as clean as a platform like Motion. So let's take Nova, for example, right? I'm going to click through. And as you can see, Apple has rejected us countless times as I go through the app review. You can see all of the different submissions that we've had. These are only the last 10 submissions, but I think if I go into history, you guys can see how many times it's been rejected, not just by us, but by Apple. I'm going to go way back to our initial versions, and you can see that this was a battle from the start. And a lot of these guys, as you can see, were rejected, and it's been months. You know, we started this process for version 1.0 in February, and the review process at some point was taking like weeks on end. So, you know, it jumped right here from March 29th to April 3rd, waiting for review to in review. Same thing you'll see again, like April 15th to April 17th, we're back to a 2-day period, and then waiting for review again April 17th to waiting or actually in review on April 26th. So they're really getting behind on these things, and we're getting rejected a lot of times. I don't know if I can actually open it up. It won't let me in this case, but it'll say things like, you know, not following XYZ guideline, right? And so when you actually get to the page and you're actually submitting that, Apple will go inside of the commentary and they'll let you know why your app was approved or rejected. That happens in app review. So you'll click into here if you're on Apple. It'll be very similar on Google, but you can just see me open one up here, and then Apple has their feedback right here. And now, as you can see, they're also starting to do automated messages because they're using AI and they're shrinking their team, but they're putting in a lot of these different guideline fixes that they need you to make. And a lot of them are starting to actually become automated, which is just slowing down, you know, approvals even more. This was an example, right? Like they disapproved us for a loading error message. They're selecting the retry button and it basically wouldn't reload the Nova app. That's something we had to fix, right? So a lot of you guys aren't going to get approved the first time you do this. If it's rejected, the best thing you can do is take the actual message, paste it into whatever's coding, because I guarantee you're probably not doing it yourself. If you are, I'd still recommend putting it into something like Claude and having Claude give you the exact fix to make. And better yet, have Claude give you a response. I've found that most of the time you navigate the rejections by submitting a new build, which then becomes in review like this, right? But then additionally, before you do so, you can go in and leave commentary. You can drop a comment on here. I can't on these because they were actually removed. I'm trying to find one that had a review completed with comments, but you can also respond to these threads that you'll see here. But anyways, back to the slides at hand. So this is the checklist really that I would give to anybody, right? That is essentially shipping an AI app that wants to actually get it on the App Store or Play Store. I'm staying, you know, true to the App Store today. We could do a separate episode on the Play Store, but it's very similar, right? But when you're dealing with these compliance teams, Apple is much more strict. Google tends to be known to be a little bit more lenient. But if you guys are still looking for feedback, let me know too. And of course, you're in the community and I'll be there as well. So this is what I want to, the tips I want to give you guys. So that way, if you have a project, you want to make it an app on the App Store, you want to even sell it on the App Store, you have to do these things. Okay. 7 things. First, everything that your app does needs to ship inside the binary. If you don't know what that means, feel free to reach out to us in the community or just ask whatever tool is coding your app, right? So what that means is no downloading logic. It's not fetching code from somebody else. If a feature exists, it exists in the build that Apple looked at. It can't like build something after the app launches. It can't install something additionally after review onto your phone than what you're sending for review. Second, remote config files can change content, never behavior, okay? So what that means is the text, images, prices, feature flags that hide things are fine. Anything that actually changes what the app does, especially after review, that's not fine. Third, no web views can load remote scripts, right? If that's happening, if you're wrapping your web content, it has to actually be content. The second that it's executable, right, you're going back to that 252 guideline that they seem to be pressing pretty hard on. Number 4, fill every screen before you submit. No placeholder text, no empty tabs, no buttons that don't go anywhere. I'm not just talking about the App Store like review process, but I'm talking about your actual coded app. Like the app on test flight or whatever that you're testing it on, Google Play as well, it needs to be full. It can't just have placeholders, right? Reviewers are going to open everything, and a dead tab reads as an unfinished app, and they're going to flag you for that. Never try to sneak that through. It's going to get rejected. Number 5, your privacy label has to match what you actually collect. And I find this with my community, the people that we coach, people inside Altura all the time when they're asking for help. Go into your code and actually check this stuff. AI generated apps pull in SDKs that you didn't consciously add, and every single one of them collects something. Okay. And 6, if you have accounts, you need an in-app account deletion in your app. So they have to have the freedom to be able to choose, right? Just like you would using almost any platform. That's guideline 511, and it's an automatic rejection. It's not a support email. It should be a button inside of the app, and they're going to look for it. So make sure you code it while you're still building right now. And 7, finally, my last tip, give them a demo account. I'm talking about Apple or Google's team, and they're going to ask for it in the listing. And write the review notes like a human. They don't want to see some AI copy paste thing, right? Working login and a short paragraph explaining what the app does and how to test the main feature. This is like sitting across from them and explaining, okay, you're going to go in to review my app. Here's what I think you should know about it. Kind of give them a bit of context so they know what they're looking for, right? And what the app's actually supposed to do. So if they're confused, they don't flag that as a reason to shut the whole app down, right? You can give them that context if there's anything that seems to be a little bit gray. Reviewers on Apple, right, are overwhelmed. I just said that. So they have minutes to review, and making it easy on them moves you up the queue substantially, right? Another tip I'll give is you can actually go into the settings on App Store Connect, and you can go fill out to like their help and support section. Then you can request a expedited review. You can only do this a few times before they start to like flag you and actually slow you down for it. But if you do have a massive update that is urgency, or this is your first time launching the app, you can definitely ask them to expedite the review, and I would encourage you to use that. But it has to be for a good reason, right? So that's it, right, guys? If you're building with AI and you're planning to actually ship to the App Store, those 7 things are the difference between 2 days of work and 2 months. Because trust me, I've been through months, as I've shown you. Obviously, anytime you guys need help with something, that's what the Altura Society is for. We're building stuff with AI. We're changing the world. We're making a ton of money in our business, and we're working together to do it. I do trainings like this every week. I take the new tools, I build something real with them, and then I tell you what actually broke. Not the launch page version, right? Like what it actually costs and what actually ships. That's it, guys. I'll see you in the next one, and I'm happy that you joined us for this training. Take care.